Multiple times in the patch notes recently, they have mentioned this line right here where it says added minimum damage against armor. I made a video about this a long time back where I found this with a couple different weapons, and I never got around to doing a full investigation on that. But I did this yesterday where I went into private lobbies and tested literally every single gun except shotguns in the game for this armor specific damage value. And we're going to go over all of that today. But as always, if you guys appreciate the work I put into getting these numbers for you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and comment. But let's get into it and talk about how this all works and actually all the specific values for the different weapons. I don't want to waste your time, so I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, this doesn't actually have a huge impact on the meta. It will change a couple different weapons. There are 17 weapons total that have these armor specific damage values currently, but most of them don't actually affect like the time to kill and things like that. It'll just affect damage per second. And also, I'm going to go through all the nerdy math for how this actually works for time to kill. So if you're someone that's not interested in that, you can just skip ahead to the part of the video where I actually talk about which different weapons have this and how it affects the game. But first, for anyone that's really interested, I know there's a bunch of people like me out there that really like to understand how this stuff works. I'm going to go through step by step how these armor specific damage values are calculated relative to regular damage and show you guys how that works. All right, so I've got the step-by-step here. The M4 is going to be the example we use. The M4 is one of these weapons that has this minimum damage to armor value. So I'm just going to go step-by-step through this to explain how this works. So the M4's minimum damage, if you're shooting someone with armor plates, is 20 damage. So that's more damage than the base damage of 18 at long range. So if you shoot someone at long range and they have plates on, it's going to do 20 damage instead of 18 damage. And again, that seems backwards because you'd think armor plates would protect you, but they're really just using this as a way to balance the weapons versus multiplayer. So I don't really care. I don't care about realism. I've talked about that a bunch. If this works, it's fine. I don't care that they're doing it this way, even though it seems weird and backwards. Yeah, it's just because there's no armor plates in multiplayer. This is what they're using to balance the weapons for Warzone specifically, rather than changing the base damage profiles. So, I mean, there's obviously different ways they could do this. In Warzone 1, they removed damage drop-offs from the weapons compared to multiplayer. I was actually the one to discover that when I did a big test in Warzone. And then, yeah, this would be another way to do it. But let's go through this. So 20 damage to armor. Normal long-range damage is 18, so you do 2 extra damage to armor plates. Plate and health, if you're fully plated, you have 3 plates, 50 health apiece for 150. So then you need to calculate the shots to break the plates with that armor-specific damage value at long range. So it takes 7.5 bullets to break plates. If you do 150 health for the plate health divided by 20 damage per bullet, you get 7.5. And then obviously you have to round that up because you can't fire half a bullet. So you have to round that up to 8 shots to break the plates. And then you have a remaining shots after the plates break. It's not an actual shot, like I said, but you have half of a shot left after the 7.5 to actually get to the breaking point. So right when that armor breaks, the damage done using the default damage on the remaining portion of the bullet. So you have half a bullet left, and it swaps over to using the other damage value. So it swaps over to using the normal long-range damage when you're shooting just the base player health instead of plates. So that is 18 damage, like I said up here, but you only have half a bullet left. So it does 18 times that half a bullet that's remaining after the plates break. And then you can get the total damage of 159. So you'll take 8 shots to get 159 damage there. So that's kind of how that all works with the situation when the plates break halfway through. And then remaining health after the plate break is 91. So that's 250 minus 190, or 159 that we just calculated. Remaining shots to kill is the same thing as we've always done for shots to kill. So it's rounding up the remaining health divided by the damage. So now it's going to do that 18 damage instead of 20. So that gives you 6 shots to kill there. And then if you add the shots to break plates to the original shots that we had to take to break the plates, you get the 8 plus 6 for 14 total shots to kill. And then I just did this to compare. So if shots to kill if the gun didn't have this armor damage value, is still 14. So both situations are 14, even though it does 20 damage instead of 18 damage to armor plates. It doesn't change the time to kill, but it does change the damage done. So if you took 13 shots on someone and they didn't have this armor damage value, it would be 18 times 13 for 234 damage. So they would have 16 health left over in that case. Whereas in this case, if you take 13 shots with this armor-specific damage value, you get 249 damage. So they would only have 1 health left. So it's just kind of interesting. It's really complicated, and I'm not really sure why they decided to do it this way instead of removing drop-offs like Warzone 1. And I would think that they could do just Warzone specific damage profiles, but I don't know. I guess this is what they decided on doing for Warzone 2, at least for now. So these are the weapons that I found these armor specific damage values on. We've got the M4, M13B, FTAC Recon, Minibak, Fennec, EBR 14, SPR 208, LMS, TAC M, MCPR 300, and then all of the pistols. So I've got the min armor damage. This is the armor damage value that I found at long range for these weapons versus the normal minimum damage for the weapon. Extra damage to armor is in this column, and then the impact on shots to kill is on the final column. So looking through this, M4, M13B, FTAC Recon, Minibak all have no impact on the shots to kill for that specific shot location that has that minimum damage. It does increase damage done overall, so it's going to be a DPS increase, and if they take any damage at all, a lot of the time this will also help with that shots to kill. So it's just basically a DPS buff for these 4 weapons. You can see the damage values here. It's usually 2 or 1 extra damage, so it's really not a huge thing for a lot of the weapons right now. Fennec 45 is one that it has a decent impact on because the damage values are so low on the Fennec because it shoots so fast. The normal minimum damage is 13, but with the minimum armor damage, it's up to 15. So that does actually reduce the shots to kill by 2. But because it shoots so fast, a change of 2 shots to kill out at super long ranges doesn't really matter that much because the Fennec doesn't really get used at super long ranges. But yeah, still interesting to note. The EBR and the TAC M are both single shot marksman rifles. I think it probably would have been really, really difficult for them to balance these between Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer and Warzone 2 because of the way the health values line up. A single shot gun that hits really hard and shoots slow in multiplayer would be very difficult to balance just because, a 2-tap kill in multiplayer could be very overpowered in certain situations, whereas in Warzone, it might not be overpowered. So I think that's why they have such a strong effect here. The EBR gets 11 extra damage over its normal minimum damage, so 37 goes up to 48 if you're shooting someone with plates, and you're going to do 37 damage. The TAC M goes from 45 up to 58, so a huge buff to damage there. Only 1 shots to kill reduced on this, but it's important to note that the way this works is anytime the bullet that you're shooting hits someone and it would have done less than this armor damage value and they're wearing plates, it'll update to the armor damage value. So if we go look at the TAC M real quick on True Game Data, you're going to see that a lot of the situations throughout the damage profile. So the first damage range out to 53 meters, none of these values, let me zoom in a bit, none of these values are beneath 58, but then as soon as you go to the second drop off, 53 meters plus, stomach, arm, and leg damage values are all beneath 58. So if they're wearing plates, even though it's not the last drop off, those damage values will all get updated to 58 damage. So it just has a pretty strong effect on things like the EBR and the TAC M when there's situations where those damage values drop below that 58 damage. The SPR and the LMS both don't have a huge impact, just 5 damage on the SPR, doesn't really change much there, and then 1 extra damage on the LMS. MCPR, 2 extra damage. I actually didn't check these normal minimum damage values, I just pulled them from TGD, so these are the Season 1 data mine values, unless it's an updated gun. So any gun that got changed, like the M13, I've fully retested that, but the rest of them are the Season 1 data mine values from Sim. So I don't know if these guns got like stealth changed. So some of these could be just stealth changes that I haven't checked yet. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And then onto the pistols. The pistols have a huge impact here. And again, it's because they're trying to make pistols usable in Warzone, but not overpowered in multiplayer. So the P890 does a minimum of 49 damage to armor. So that's crazy. That's 24 extra damage. Just changes how the gun plays significantly. So as soon as you break plates, it's going to take 4 shots to break the plates, and then you'll start doing 25 damage per bullet instead of 49 damage per bullet. So just a gigantic buff there. And then the 50 GS, the Deagle, that does 18 extra damage, 63 damage instead of 45. X12, 18 extra damage. Basilisk, 13 extra damage. And X13 Auto, 4 extra damage. So just really, really big changes to the pistols with this min armor damage. All right, so this isn't up on TGD yet. I have to actually get the programming done that will allow for this to happen. Since this is a new mechanic we've never had before, I don't have any programming in TGD that can actually account for this armor-specific damage at minimum amount. Like it's kind of a weird thing, so I'm not sure how long it'll take me. It should be pretty easy since it's just a single value, and I just have to update it to that. But I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, hope you guys learned something from the video. I like to make these informative videos, even if it's not like groundbreaking, meta changing stuff all the time. I mean, the pistol values are pretty significant. The TAC-M, EBR, very significant. The other ones don't really change that much though. But I still like to make these informative videos to explain the mechanics as I see them from the outside. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.